Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. And as promised, I finally got started on this live chat. Meant to do this a few days ago. Didn't have the best of luck. I'm going to go ahead and share this in my community tab, put it on Twitter, and then hopefully can get some people in here. Been enjoying my vacation over the week. And let's just bear with me here and share this. Let's see. Okay. Hope everybody's having a great day today. I had some shitty weather come through here in the last day and a half. It's just been rain and it's been just a bit unbearable at times. Managed to cut my hand open pretty bad in the yard too, which was not smart. Okay. Sending this over to my community tab, and now I'm going to put this up on Twitter. I'm not expecting a lot of people to come in here as it is. I mean, I'm just like, if anybody can't make it in here, it's whatever. I'm not really going to. Okay. So I wanted to get this done for quite a while. I haven't done one of these things since, what was it, December? When I last did this? Hey, how's it going, Alfredo? I'm actually doing this chat today because I told people I was going to do this when I had my 2 weeks in the city. Feels good to be doing this, but a lot has been going on lately in my life, and I just don't have the time to make videos half the time. I did put a video up earlier, my Friday the 13th Part 6 review, if you want to go watch that. I mean, that's my favorite Friday the 13th. Let's see, comments. Okay. Been having some bad weather, and I've been just really busy with other stuff lately, and I managed to cut my hand open trying to pull something out of the ground, and I've been having a bit of an infection in my left hand, so I have not really been able to do a lot. Just waiting for my hand to stop stinging. Yeah, they're actually saying that online, that it was one of the better Summer Slams that we haven't seen in so many years. I saw the return of Roman Reigns. I'm not exactly crazy about his new theme song. I know it's kind of a modified version of the heel version that he had. I missed the previous one he had. That would have been more epic to use that one. The only thing I would have done differently about this whole thing, I would have had, the bloodline actually believe that Roman was coming to help them. And then, he comes out and lays waste to the bloodline and helps out Cody. And then it just becomes more of a mystery to why he turned on the bloodline. Despite they're doing a great job with Solo Sikoa being the top heel in the bloodline, I got to say, he's really proven himself to be really enjoyable as a heel. I actually thought that they built it up pretty good. Despite I already know for a fact that Cody Rhodes is probably going to be dropping the belt pretty soon, and then Roman is going to move on to The Rock, and he'll beat The Rock for the championship. Get well, fan recovery. I would have done if Solo wins a world champion and then gets confronted by Roman. Yeah, I mean, I get that part too. I mean, I know they're building Solo up, but I would rather they wait like at least a few more years out, because they don't want to rush building somebody up to hold a championship who's not really ready for the main event spot, because it really remains a question of whether Solo can actually break out on his own once the bloodline comes to an end, which I think the bloodline is going to be ending possibly after The Rock leaves, after he loses to Roman Reigns. And I think that's where it's going to go. And maybe by that point, Solo will be ready to be on his own. So I don't know. I mean, I like how things are getting better in WWE. I have to say, ever since Vince McMahon left and Triple H took over creative, it's been a major breadth of improvement. breath of fresh air. Excuse me. I can't even talk right because I'm actually looking at my hand injury right now and I'm getting sidetracked. And but it's been really getting better with WWE. I actually enjoyed the Liv Morgan, Dominic Mysterio, Rhea Ripley triangle, despite I wanted to have Liv Morgan after she and Dominic revealed that they set up Rhea Ripley, that Liv Morgan would throw Dominic away at that point, and then she leaves Dominic really confused, and Rhea's hurt, and then Liv walks away as a selfish champion who uses anybody to get what she wants. I think they had a really good opportunity with that. Cody world title reign has been solid, though nowhere near as Roman's level. If it is Shinsuke challenges Cody for the world title next, I'm done. I haven't really heard much about Shinsuke in a while. I don't even remember him being around much. I don't think they've really done anything big with him since 2018 when he was feuding with AJ Styles, or I think that was 2019 when AJ Styles was the WWE champion on SmackDown. But ever since that whole time period, Shinsuke Nakamura really has been kind of kept at a mid-card status. Great athlete, but I just don't see him going and being a main event champion for some reason. Not because of him, but because creatively, it's just they've got their favorites at the end of the day, that being WWE. But yeah, they had a really good opportunity with Liv Morgan, and I think that Liv Morgan is going to turn on Dominic Mysterio down the road once she has no more use for him. It's going to cause Dominic to get dumped, and then he starts kind of transitioning back to a baby face, and he reforms his family alliance with Rey Mysterio, and he reveals that the corruptions of the business really corrupted his head and made him into a completely different person, and he starts kind of a redemption, the road back. It's been a strong force in the mid-card division, winning the IC US tag team titles. That's recently last year, then Raw lost to Cody 3 times. Yeah, but what I really mean is creatively, though, could they really push Shinsuke Nakamura to the main event level to be a champion? I mean, I could see them maybe putting him in the ring with Gunther or somebody else, but putting the belt on him is a completely different story than putting him in the ring with some of these champions. But I don't know. It just depends creatively on how the whole thing is pushed. I still think he's a good athlete. I'll give him that. And what else? Not really expecting a lot of people to come pouring in here. It's in the afternoon time, so a lot of people are going to be either busy or just away doing stuff, so it's whatever. I might do another chat later tonight. And I put this in my community tab. I'm not going to put the StreamYard link in here because I don't want to take the chance of getting porn bombed or get harassed by these little assholes that are still in this community. I haven't done a StreamYard since December. I can't believe it's already been that long. Got 9:30, 9:31 in. Not bad. Best technical wrestler in the world right now. His IC title reign, 666 days, was prestige. Glad he earned the world title. Yeah, I definitely agree. I think Gunther has really progressed over the last few years, especially, but I think they're slowly getting behind him and they're just building him up the right way. I mean, he might be able to be a dominant champion, but I wouldn't put him on the same level of Roman Reigns. But I think that if they could creatively do stuff with him to where he can have his own run and he could have a really memorable title run. So I think that is, if they do this the right way. And the best thing about WWE under Triple H is that there's really not a feeling that much of worry and stress that it was with Vince McMahon when he was in the company in his last years. I think creatively under Vince McMahon in the final years that he was in charge were just some of the worst ever. Some of the worst booking. The guy sabotaged gimmicks that were working in NXT. He ruined NXT pushes when they got to the main event roster. I think he even replaced Triple H at one point as the head of creative in NXT. He fired his own son, Shane McMahon, over booking of the Royal Rumble. Like, it's just really terrible ideas. And aside from WWE getting better, a lot of other stuff I've been watching lately. I started the new season of Cobra Kai, which is so far looking to be really good. It's too bad it's going to be the final season. I hope that they would go to season 10 at least, but I guess they want to pull the plug while they still can. Um, it's hard to say. I'm not ready to really let it process yet because I don't know what came out of that. I mean, I don't know if he really joined them, or I haven't been really following news and rumors in a while, but I did hear a little bit about it. I'm going to go ahead and see if I can get other people in here. Let's see, get more people to join. Okay, I just got notified that YouTube has sent a notification to me about my Friday the 13th Part 6 video. Why am I getting notified of a video that I basically made? I didn't turn on notifications to be alerted of of all my uploads. Like, what the hell? You know, this website really is this website really operates in broken ways sometimes. Let's see, we got one watching. Okay, we got 293. All right. Let's see. No side on Shane as Booker on SmackDown, win World Cup 2018, 22 Royal Rumble disaster. Among became the world champion. He also made Jinder Mahal. You know, people dump on Jinder Mahal as champion, but I think we've had far worse in wrestling. Like, there will never ever be a bad champion as what we got in WCW when David Arquette won the WCW title. That to me would probably fall under as the worst championship run ever that really was instrumental in sinking a company. I mean, yeah, Jinder Mahal really is someone that probably isn't looked at as physically superior to Brock Lesnar or Roman Reigns, but we've had way worse than him, is all I'm going to say. But to be fair, I mean, Jinder Mahal's worst gimmick was when he was part of 3MB with Drew McIntyre and Heath Slater. I hated that group. Worst champion of all time, in my opinion, was Jack Swagger. I mean, his title run, I couldn't get behind it. I don't know what it was when he was world champion. I don't know why. There was just something really missing that made him a really good heel, that he could have been like a great heel and a dominant champion, but I don't know what it was. I just, ability wise in the ring, he had wrestling ability, but something was just missing that entire time. Got one person in here. Gonna check my. Got two people. No, one person here. Let's see. I don't know why this is happening where my browser keeps on either freezing on me or doing something. Let's see here. See, it does this thing where I go to log in and it keeps on saying restored and then disconnected. I don't know what the hell's going on with that. Got one person. Christian, Shelton Benjamin, Matt Hardy would have won the Money in the Bank in WrestleMania 26. Why waste it on the Money in the Bank briefcase to unprepared main eventer? Well, I think what it is that they were really trying to kind of give you somebody that you would never guess would win it. And I think that was really what they hoped to do. But I think after when he cashed in on Chris Jericho and won the world title, and I don't know, something was just feeling a bit off. Like Edge and Jericho got drafted to Monday Night Raw, and Swagger moved on to like Rey Mysterio in the Big Show, and something just felt really different. Like all that momentum, and then they put the belt on him, and just something just didn't feel right. You know what I mean? I'm not against Swagger's ability, but creatively there was really something missing. And that's why I don't think his title run really is even worth remembering. I mean, I think his triple threat match with Edge and Chris Jericho on SmackDown was really good. If you ever go watch that match, that was a really good match. Well, got one person in here. I really have been trying to get back into doing these streams. When I have the time, I just don't really. I can't sit in front of a computer all day for some reason. I have to be out there and do some stuff. Let's see. Gonna put another community post out here for everybody. Community post. Let's see if I can live chat. See if I can get some people in here. Okay. Community post. All right. Got one person. France opening ceremony videos most likely to like, but taken out of eventually. I haven't really been paying attention to that. I haven't heard anything about it. I mean, I might have to look that up. We got 19 minutes in. Got two people who joined. But yeah, as I was saying earlier, WWE is really getting better. I mean, creatively, it's not as silly as it once was with the PG era. I think it's gotten more enjoyable, and it's not as hard to watch anymore. Like they're really doing a lot of things they should have done sooner. I personally think WWE, if they keep going the way they are, they might just become the number one company again. Because the last several years of creative, like they've just made some of the stupidest decisions ever. Case in point, they will not put a championship around Shayna Baszler, who has been on the main event roster the last 5 years and has not gotten the women's championship run. They keep putting her in these tag team partners, like with these tag team partners. It doesn't work because they're building Shayna up as a killer the last several years, but she keeps relying on tag team partners. Like, what the hell? She's had 4 tag team partners, technically 5 if you count Sonya Deville, who's leading that group right now. But you have Nia Jax, Natalya, Ronda Rousey, Zoe Stark. Enough with the tag team partners for Shayna Baszler. Put the championship on her already. I've wanted her to be a champion now the last 3, 4 years, and they're just not doing it. That's probably the only annoyance that I see going on now. Like they're just continuing to mismanage Shayna. And it really angers me a lot because she really is somebody that has everything. She can wrestle on the mat, she can brawl, she can take to the air. She's got a legit background in combat fighting. I mean, they just really have blew it. She go to the Indies, TNA, MLW, or Stardom to get women world title there. At this point, I honestly think you're right about that because it's just going to be the same thing all the time. She's going to turn on Zoe Stark, then they're going to put her back in a tag team with somebody else. I mean, with Ronda Rousey, for example, Ronda Rousey was already on the way out at that point, and she was already wanting to get out of WWE as it was. And just by bad timing that they started actually feuding a feud between her and Shayna Baszler, and then they had that one match, and then Ronda vanished. And, I really think that was really a missed opportunity. If that had happened sooner, they might have been able to have a series of matches, but it was just one match, and then Ronda left. Although I think Ronda will be back one day because she's already been calming down. Ronda's actually been accepting WWE a bit more lately because Vince McMahon's not there anymore. And I think after she gives birth to her second kid, possibly by the end of next year, we might see a return for Ronda Rousey. Because I've often said that Ronda is not done the way that people think. I think she'll return and resume a feud with Shayna Baszler. I think that's where it's going to go. Let's see. Women tag team titles in WWE have been abysmal. Yeah, WWE wants a women mid-card title. Seriously, SmackDown women's division has been horrible except for Tiffany Stratton. I've often said this in my previous WWE rant videos on my older channel. One of the biggest things that they have done wrong the last several years is they don't build up their divisions, and there isn't enough people in them to where they would change the scenery of the matches, and there's too many championships, which was a bad idea. They went from the basic small set of titles to like a ton of titles, and they don't build any divisions up, and they just get all these rematches over and over and over and over again. Like the tag team scene for years was the Usos versus the New Day. When back then in the 80s and early 90s, you had all kinds of tag teams, and to make a division, and the tag teams back then, they had more chemistry, where now it's just the same teams facing each other, but they keep saying that they're divisions when they're really not because there's too many championships. Let's see comments. Current comment. Let's see. It's going to be a really crappy next several days outside. Got 24, 30. No, that's not too bad. Let's see. Why split up the tag titles when they don't have competitors? Have men tag team titles defended in both brands. That's what I've been saying for years. We don't need two sets of tag team champions. It's meaningless. The thing is, very slowly, like they don't even explain anymore, like why superstars on SmackDown can appear on Raw and vice versa, yet they're dual brands. But yet they have so many champions on both shows, but they don't have any divisions. It's so confusing. Like if they were to really explain it more, they probably could get away with doing a lot better. I mean, it's getting better, but there's still some signs that WWE is still doing stuff that really sank their company or their shows, I should say. Let's see. Um, All right, let's see. Dudley Boys left WWE in 2005 is because the breakup of tag teams, no competition, working with two green young talent tag teams. Yeah, I mean, by that point, it was really evident that the company was really just starting to go through a lot of things that were not making any sense. I mean, the Dudley Boys were probably the last great tag team to come along in WWE from the older generation, to where the newer tag teams were just not really, they don't look like they've had any chemistry. Hey, Will Ferrell number one, how you doing? You ever seen Thanksgiving? I've been meaning to check that video. I've been meaning to check that movie out. I have not been able to see it yet. Been meaning to see it though. Let's see. It's actually a movie I've been meaning to get to. I just never got around to seeing it, but I heard it's pretty good. I think if I remember, it's on Netflix. The good younger tag teams were Brian Kendrick and Paul London, and maybe Carlito and Primo. Yeah, I forgot about those two teams, but the ironic thing about that is that I think that Paul London had a bit of a riff going with Brian Kendrick in real life. Paul London really has had a history of having heat with quite a lot of people. The tag team he had with Billy Kidman, for example, he had a tag team with Kidman despite they had chemistry, but they both did not get along in real life. From what I understand, like London, I guess he accuses Kidman of throwing him under a bus. Despite Billy Kidman's heel turn actually was not that bad compared to WCW when they tried putting him against Hogan. Yep, I remember them very well, Eminem. I think they also didn't get along behind the scenes, Mercury and Nitro. I think that if I remember, they both had a conflict with each other. And I think that Mercury got released due to drug usage or something, or maybe he was injured. I'd have to go back and look at that. But I know that Johnny Nitro, aka John Morrison, admitted later on that apparently, like, the two did not get along whatsoever behind the scenes and they had to work together. Kind of makes me think of the tag team of Paul Roma and Jim Powers that had a falling out. The Young Stallions. That's what their team name was. I'm gonna see if I can get this. Let's see. Oh, that wasn't what I meant to do. Gonna go back here. All right. Got two people in here. Let's see. Once Paul Heyman got released in 2006, SmackDown under him was no longer gold. Yeah, it kind of did get a little bit boring at times. And when they lost Kurt Angle and he went over to ECW, and something just really fell with SmackDown over the years. I mean, they just really seemed to fall. Kurt Angle leaving WWE in 2006 also was very hard. I mean, he went over to TNA, but it was really weird not seeing him around anymore in WWE, but he had every right to want to leave. I mean, his life was falling apart. The guy had a pain pill addiction, he had multiple injuries. He didn't want to be there anymore because it was just too much on the body and mind, which I understand. And he went over to TNA and had some of the best matches. The feud with Samoa Joe when he went over there was fantastic. I enjoyed that feud. The 2006 match they had at Genesis was just amazing. The fan response, the two of them really went into that match and they were really physical on each other. Kurt Angle and Samoa Joe, greatest TNA rivalry I ever saw. Still is. One of them, anyway. But when Kurt came back to WWE years later, I mean, he tried to keep his career going, but just by that point, I think he had already aged to the point where he was just slowing down and he was not really what he used to be. SmackDown losing Lesnar, Angle, Guerrero, and Cena drafted to Raw was downfall of SmackDown. 6, Benoit also drafted ECW. I couldn't get behind the ECW brand. I don't know why. I was never really able to see the original, but I didn't care for the watered down recreation of it. I just didn't have any interest to see it. And I think they had that December to Dismember pay-per-view, which everybody says is practically the worst one ever, despite I think the Great American Bash in '04 was really the worst one. Do not get me started on that pay-per-view. That whole pay-per-view just absolutely stunk. The first opening match was pretty good, but the rest of them, all the matches afterwards were just boring as hell. Let's see. The real WWE brand split 2011 draft was the worst. And I'm glad you brought that up. The draft I want to see ended. I don't like the draft anymore. I think it's repetitive. I don't see the point of talents going from one show that are buried to going to another that are getting buried. I just lost interest in it. Like, you go back and watch when it really all began with Ric Flair and Vince McMahon. Like, that was really an epic draft when it was for the first time ever, and they had all the talents on both shows sitting in the back. And, some of the reactions were very hilarious. Like, The Undertaker got drafted to Raw, and he started his feud with Ric Flair more. But over the years, the draft is just not appealing anymore. Like the Money in the Bank ladder match, I've lost interest in the whole thing. There's just some things they need to work at getting rid of that have run their course, is what I'm been trying to say. The last WWE draft was 2008 with CM Punk and Batista to Raw and Triple H and Jeff Hardy to SmackDown. It was great in 2008. Got 3 people in here. Let's see. Got to get into doing this more often. Like, I can't believe I've fallen behind so much as a content creator. I've been meaning to get back into doing videos and streams, but I've been having to deal with a lot of other stuff. But I really do believe that WWE, as I've been mentioning, has gotten really good lately. And I like how they have more freedoms now. Like, it just seems like the PG era when they took away a lot of freedoms and everything just felt more restricted. But I really hope they put the women's championship on Shayna Baszler really soon, because if they don't, Baszler needs to get out of her contract, needs to go elsewhere. She would be really good in AEW. I could see her really working with a lot of talents that could give her a tough time. Commentary at SummerSlam. Yeah, I heard a little bit about that, actually. I still remember Michael Cole's heel turn years ago in his heel run when he was aligned with The Miz and Alex Riley. God, he was so obnoxious. You remember that? Every time he gets up and just basically says he got a message from the anonymous Raw general manager, and he just gets up and just says obnoxiously, "Can I have your attention, please?" And the fans just began booing him. Like, WWE kept the Boogeyman and Khali in 2006 SmackDown. where they could have signed Scott Norton, Tracy Smothers as some star power to SmackDown brand. Yeah, I mean, the Great Khali, I have nothing against him, but because of his size, he was not really able to do a lot. And I think the Boogeyman was already at the point where, he was just not young enough to be a superstar. Scott Norton was a real big menacing force in WCW, but he was another one they kept down and wasted. Tracy Smothers, I remember him from his tag team years. He was a really good talent. I honestly enjoyed Tracy Smothers in the older era of tag team wrestling. Like his WCW run, he had some really good matches there. Yeah, that I heard about that. I actually heard about that. And what they're doing with Dominic has actually been pretty clever. But I do think that it's not going to be long before he does a face turn because Liv Morgan is going to throw him to the curb. You wait and see. I'm pretty sure of it. It's going to put Liv over more as a heel, a selfish women's champion. It's coming. Let's see here. Let's see. No, it's not him. Got 3 people in here. Let's see. Too Cold Scorpio could have been a good replacement for RVD during SmackDown's dying years. Yeah, I think so. I kind of was a little bit let down years prior when they gave Too Cold Scorpio the Flash Funk gimmick, which I didn't think was necessary. I think that's really one reason why Scorpio never really got over big in WWE years ago. I just couldn't get behind the gimmick. I just thought it was just typical WWE. Like they were just putting him in this gimmick where he's coming out and dancing, and I think this was the gimmick where they actually based the Brodus Clay Funkasaurus gimmick, which don't get me started on that either. That was a horrible gimmick. And that got criticized because I guess Brodus Clay had actually used a version of Ernest the Cat Miller's gimmick in WCW when he was doing the James Brown dancing and when he was the commissioner. Can't believe it's going to rain again. So much rain. Let's see here. Run was okay. However, he had a drug use during the Attitude Era and the Brawl for All buried him. Yeah, the Brawl for All was really something that everybody still talks about. I actually, it's hard to say with the Brawl for All because I know they took a lot of those guys and brought them out of their element. Because a lot of the guys that were in that were actually not trained to use boxing gloves, but there were some legit badasses in it that actually had fighting backgrounds. You have former UFC champion Dan Severn. You've got the martial artist Steve Blackman. You got Mark Merrow, who's a former Golden Gloves champion. But they were really trying to get that thing rigged to put Dr. Death Steve Williams over, and he would move on to Stone Cold Steve Austin, but it ended up backfiring because he got injured and Bart Gunn knocked him out. And then, of course, WWE threw Bart Gunn the Butterbean at the following WrestleMania as a punishment. Let's see. There was a league. Scorpio not been released. He and Bob Holly would have won the tag team titles from Owen Hart and Jeff Jarrett at WrestleMania 15. Yeah, I mean, that would have been a pretty good tag team. But at the same time, it also worked itself out because Bob Holly was really gaining momentum as a heel hardcore champion. I actually enjoyed that run as he called himself the Big Shot. Despite hardcore wrestling still gets crapped on to this day by a lot of fans who don't like it. Got 3 people in here. Let's see. Comments. Okay. Yeah, but Scorpio was a great talent. I mean, I enjoyed some of his ring. I enjoyed some of his matches he had. I really thought that he could really put on some really good matches. Um, the Flash Funk gimmick, however, again, it was just silly. I didn't really care for it. I don't think anybody really cared for the gimmick. I don't remember him getting a lot of cheers during it. I think people just watched his matches to pass the time when he was Flash Funk. And I think that when you mentioned Tracy Smothers, he was given that Freddie Joe Floyd gimmick, if I remember it, if it was really him that had that gimmick. But that's another example of it. WWE with their lame gimmicks that they had back then, they took these talents from other companies that were big and they give them something silly and they just are not able to really do much with them. I mean, look at the mid 90s. How many of these silly gimmicks did we have? We had pig farmers, we had ninjas, we had garbage men, we had clowns, we had it became really a circus. Got 3 people in here. I'm only seeing 2 people talk for some reason. I wonder who the third person is. Let's see here. I'm going to try and share this again on Twitter. Okay. Got 3 people in here. I don't know how long I'm going to chat for. I've already been doing this for 42 minutes. I would put a StreamYard link in, everybody, but again, as I've done this before, and I'm not going to be getting potentially targeted here, so I'm not going to put the StreamYard link in. WWE in 2002, 2006 really wasted Raven, Canyon, Rhino, Mike Awesome, A-Train, and the women's division after 2004. Well, A-Train, to be fair, he ended up getting injured, and I think he was released after that, if I had to remember it. Mike Awesome was really somebody they ruined, obviously, but to be fair, I enjoyed Mike Awesome better in WWE because in WCW, one of the worst gimmicks he had was that 70s guy, Mike Awesome, and he had that bus and he was dressed like he was part of the 70s, and it just really it didn't work. Raven actually had a pretty good run in the hardcore division, but again, he wasn't going to go much further than that. Rhino also was another one. Like when he was in the hardcore division, he actually had more going for him. And then when he started venturing away from that, and then that's when they kind of didn't do much with the guy. Let's see. Got 4 people in here. It just goes to show, though, when WWE brings in these younger talents, they generally do either nothing with them creatively or they just give them crappy gimmicks that just don't work. I mean, back then when Vince McMahon was running it, I mean, it got really, really silly after a while. And half of these talents that they really destroyed were really big in other companies. You know, I'm reminded of EC3 when he was in TNA or Impact Wrestling and he was the obnoxious nephew of Dixie Carter. They had a chance. They really did a lot with him. They made him like a really top heel, and he was very believable. He had like wrestling ability. He could get heat from people. They brought him over to WWE, and they didn't do really anything with the guy. He was only seen like in a few backstage segments, and I felt bad for the guy because he came over from a company that really did a lot with him to bringing him to a company that really did not do much with him, and then he was treated as a joke. They could have been a stacked mid-card division on SmackDown for the U.S. champion after Benoit defeated Orlando Jordan. Worst U.S. champion at 20 seconds SummerSlam. Yeah, I heard a little bit about that. I mean, this is one reason why sometimes going back to WWE is not a wise decision. Bobby Lashley, when he was in Impact Wrestling, he was a destroyer. The only time they really ever did anything with Lashley was when he was the champion on Monday Night Raw. And then everything just kind of came apart. They turned him into a baby face, and he started his feud with Omos and MVP. And then I just really don't think that really the guy really was allowed to get as far of a Roman Reigns or Brock Lesnar. Even like the stuff with Brock Lesnar, for example, they were only doing that because they were waiting to have Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns happen another time. And I just don't think Lashley and Lesnar were able to really do much. So, but I hope the man goes to AEW or goes back to TNA to where they could do more with him. I don't see Mike Awesome vision during 2002, 2005, RVD, Randy Orton, Christian, Booker T, Edge, Jericho, Kane, Test, Goldust, Lance Storm. I don't see Mike Awesome snatching the IC title, but in a tag team. Well, I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, Mike Awesome, I mean, before WCW went down and they finally ditched that crappy that 70s gimmick, I mean, he was really starting to gain momentum again, but once he got to WWE, they didn't do anything really big with the guy, and sadly, he ended up passing away at a young age. Lance Storm is another one. I mean, he was dominant in WCW. They brought him to WWE, and after the whole Un-Americans tag team ended, like they gave him that crappy gimmick where he was coming to the ring dancing and smiling, and that song Party All Night, that gimmick where he was paired up with Val Venus. I really thought that gimmick was what ended his career. If I remember correctly, that was one of the reasons he wanted to leave. Held the Hardcore Championship in 2001, defeated his rivalry. Yeah, I remember that. I remember that feud pretty well. Trying to remember. Oh, I remember it now. It was Rhino versus, I think it was Test. And then Rhino basically was jumped by Mike Awesome during the Invasion storyline, and then Mike Awesome pinned him for the Hardcore Championship. I remember that very well. So I honestly think that Mike Awesome was an amazing talent, but I mean, it was really sad how he passed away at such a young age. But then again, I mean, the death rate in wrestling is really, really sad, and it's very alarming, and it's very high. Let's see. Hope WWE officially stopped Diva Search. Yeah, I didn't care for that either. Even Tough Enough, like I don't want to even follow that. Tough Enough really was just forever marked in controversy when Hardcore Holly assaulted Matt Capitelli during it. Bobby Lashley speaks out after quitting WWE following racism accusations against Triple H. I'll have to look that up sometime online and read more about it. I really don't see Lashley being affected as much as people might think. Like the guy can go elsewhere. I don't think it was even racism that really caused all this. I think it was just a lack of creative, I guess, or stuff that they just wanted to. He didn't want to do it anymore. He wanted to bring back the Hurt Business, but Triple H said no. But if WWE was really a racist company, they wouldn't have never had put the belt on Lashley a few years ago when he was WWE champion on Monday Night Raw. And I really don't think Triple H should be that way towards somebody that's a former combat fighter because Triple H would be killed. But that's just my take on it. Yeah, it certainly died. I mean, they got a long way to go yet before they can get back to where they really are, where they were once. Hurt Business versus Bloodline would have been gold. Sadly, Lashley never got his rematch. Yeah. I mean, I wish him all the best. I think Lashley is going to head over to AEW or he might just retire. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. But I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up, guys, and I'm going to do a live chat later on today if you guys want to come back and see me then, because I got some stuff I got to get done here. But thanks again for coming, everybody that had a chance to come by, and I'll talk to you guys later, and take care.